Hello, everybody. Facefoot here. Yesterday, we met as our full team to go over these Nightmare Dungeon tier lists since we got that big patch last week, which changed how Nightmare Dungeons work quite a bit. You're getting a lot more experience now as you kill the monsters at the end for completing the dungeon, and you can now use the sigils to instantly teleport to the dungeon. So there's no more travel time consideration, and with all those things in mind, and after some testing, we have went through and updated all four of our Nightmare Dungeon tier lists to account for these changes. So let's go through these one at a time here real quick and just point out some changes and kind of how things are looking right now. And as we get more updates and changes as we head into season one, we'll continue to update these tier lists. So depending on what you're trying to accomplish in your nightmare dungeons, you can be picking the best sigils to farm and perhaps even salvaging the really bad ones in order to get more dust so you can hopefully get more good ones. But at the end of the day, with the solo experience farming here, you can tell some things went up, some things went down. Again, one of the major considerations here for the solo experience farming again is the fact that now you no longer have to go to the waypoint, ride your horse to each dungeon, try to do ones that are not only efficient dungeons, but efficient to get to as far as world travel time went. But now that that's completely out the window, a lot of these have moved around. Now that you can just instantly get in there, you just blast the dungeon, go to the next one. So the end of the day, you've had a few like Sunken Ruins, Wraithwind Wilds that are really showing a lot of promise now that you can get right into them. You can see there's a lot of red arrows here, and for people that don't know, on the legend here, this is just how much these have moved compared to our last tier list. So it's just trying to give people a visualization there for when they come back. They've looked at this before, they can see why things have changed. If they've gone down 2 tiers or if they've gone up 1. But you can kind of soak this in. One of the biggest takeaways here is combining solo experience farming along with glyph leveling, you'll come to find out that a lot of the same dungeons are at the top of both. While, this has more to do with monster density, getting all that experience from the dungeon, this is simply for glyph leveling. How fast can you get the dungeon done? You're just trying to get to the end, finish the objectives, kill the boss, whatever it might be, level up your glyphs, get out of there. But comparing the two lists, you'll find that, places like Gulron Canals, Blind Burrows, Alderwood, a lot of these are Wraithwind Wilds again. They're commonly found across the top S and A tier on both of these tier lists. So get to know these top dungeons, love them, and use them. But again, glyph leveling, same idea. Gulron Canals is the absolute GOAT. A lot of things are coming up here now that you no longer have to consider the travel time, especially for something where we're literally just trying to get through these dungeons as quickly as possible. That has helped us immensely. So a lot of things have went up in general. Things have moved into S tier long before it was just Smallwood and Alderwood, the only ones where, it's close enough to a waypoint and fast enough of a dungeon that it seemed like really good options for glyph leveling. So definitely some better options out there for this now. You don't have to be quite as picky, but as you can tell, there are still a good chunk of them down in the lower tier. Group farming, these next two tier lists had very few changes and almost no changes at all, if actually possibly not a single change on the high tier pushing list, because these things, it wasn't as important, the travel time. It's like when you're in a group, it's, being able to get through these better designed dungeons was, already the higher priority versus how long it took you to get there. So regardless of that, the travel time does make a little bit of a difference. Some have moved up. We find that some of these dungeons and groups really, aren't as efficient as we thought, so they have moved down. But not as many changes to this as far as groups go. Really, it's very similar to the other ones too. You're going to find a lot of these same dungeons for the first 3 tier lists are, roughly in the same spots on each list. So when you get down to high tier pushing, where a lot of things really do change, you can tell again we don't have any arrows here on this tier list. It's not that it wasn't looked at. There could be more changes coming here as people really do more high tier pushing, but there's only so many people pushing 80 plus on so many different builds. So, at the end of the day, it's, the simple dungeons with, less threatening monsters. A lot of times it's ones that don't have a boss, so you don't have to deal with that part of a high nightmare dungeon clear. But at the end of the day, this tier list has not changed very much, if at all, yet. When season one's coming around, we'll see what other changes or perhaps even new dungeons sprout up. Maybe they're going to redesign some of these dungeons. We'll see what happens. But as far as high tier pushing goes, Blind Burrows, Dark Ravine are still going to probably be two of your best options. Some of these are going to be better. Keep in mind too, this will depend on what class you're playing. It's not like every class is made the same and will do the exact same in all these dungeons, but obviously we have to consider all classes, all builds, and just give you a good general idea of what are good options to run and which ones are probably certainly ones to avoid when you're doing high tier pushing. But at the end of the day, that's just a quick update for our four Nightmare Dungeon tier lists here. Again, we'll keep updating these as we go, but we feel like this is a pretty important resource to have so that you can, better choose what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. Let you guys know, we are working on, and we're probably going to implement this in other ways too, but these filters we have for like side quests and dungeons, we're going to keep adding tags and, enhancing this menu. And we plan to soon add, check marks for things like nightmare dungeons, so you can just see which ones are nightmare. You'll be able to perhaps have some drop downs for monster families, item types, some different options to filter by here. So you can, better narrow down a list of dungeons that you want to learn about. Obviously here too, for people that don't know, you can just type in any aspect name and find these dungeons. So if there's ones that you're looking to target farm, just know you can pull them up on our dungeon filter at any time. But that's it for the updates for that tier list. I hope this information helps you guys as you finish up your grind for experience as we, head into season one. We all know it's coming soon. So these changes and farming these right dungeons, if you haven't got in and done very much of it, but it's significant. The experience gains that you're getting now running through Nightmare Dungeons cannot be understated. You can fly to 100 like never before. So if you haven't tried it out, find some of your sigils for some of these good dungeons, go run them, and watch your experience bar fly. Make another video here going over our build guide tier list just to keep this one a little bit shorter. We did have some changes there. And aside from that, we're just going to try to keep things going here on the YouTube, keep you guys updated with tier lists, build guides, resources, and news posts as they come out. So, if you don't want to miss out on anything, subscribe to the channel, and we'll keep you posted with the D4 news that's coming.